In the end of time, there was a man who knew the road, and that man was Jack Black. I need to talk about the masterpiece that is the 2003 comedy musical School of Rock. School of Rock held the title for top grossing comedy musical until it was dethroned by Pitch Perfect 2 in 2015. This movie is a relic, nay, a unicorn of the late 90s, early aughts, a well-aging needle in the haystack of really, really cringe comedy movies. But School of Rock is so much more than that. As I looked into the history of this film and the people who made it, the people who inspired it, I discovered a strikingly grounded story about the loneliness of childhood, the power in confronting systems of authority, and the impact of creating community through shared identity and transgression. I discovered a hell of a lot more than I expected from a kids movie. So let's start at the top. The year was 2003. The US launched the not-so-rock-and-roll invasion of Iraq. Tesla was founded by not Elon Musk. MySpace is born. Mr. Rogers dies. Flash mob and electronic cigarette are added to the dictionary. And Texas A&M University delivers the first ever deer cloned by scientists whose name is Dewey. Dewey Finn, played by Jack Black, is a down-on-his-luck wannabe rock star who squats in the living room of his friend's apartment. We first meet Dewey shredding guitar before attempting a painfully failed stage dive. We then match cut to Dewey laying in bed, the first of many great visual choices in this movie. Bringing on the director Richard Linklater seemed like an unusually heavy-hitter choice at first. Known for movies like Dazed and Confused, Before Sunrise, and Boyhood, Linklater himself has said that his work explores the youth rebellion continuum, and he prioritizes reality in his films, which actually makes him a great match for this coming-of-age story about the trials of childhood. School of Rock's writer is also the creator of White Lotus, Mike White. Mike plays Ned Schneebly, Dewey's friend, former bandmate, and roommate.
I'm not a temp, I'm a sub. And soon I'll be a certified teacher.
But you may also know him as a contestant and runner-up on Survivor Season 37, David vs. Goliath.
Mike, Carl, Davey, Kara, Dan, Angelina, got nothing for you. Grab your stuff, head back to camp.
We got nothing for you either.
Finally. Somebody says what people have been wanting to say for years.
I feel like I'm bonding the most with Jeremy just because he's so hilarious and also he bosses me around.
Well, watch your fingers.
I want some coffee.
I need a soy latte stat.
I continuously, by my homeboys, get my black card taken away from me. Y'all know what a black card is, right?
Mm-hmm. No.
I was enjoying the beautiful sky.
I know. Look at it, it's celestial.
It's celestial, that's such a good word for it. It's like you're a writer or something.
Oh my god.
You guys are my brothers, and we're marching into war.
Can we have cake first?
Yes.
The bonds get tighter, so a blind side hurts a little more. Does that run through your head, how you vote somebody out?
What? Are you saying people are lying?
Ned's live-in girlfriend Patty, played by Sarah Silverman, assumes the role of nagging partner who, understandably, would like her passive boyfriend to do something about his deadbeat friend sleeping on their floor. When he is confronted, Dewey doesn't have the rent money and Ned apologizes for even asking. Total beta behavior from a guy who has clearly never heard of mewing. But after Ned Cell does enough begging about how he may never have another girlfriend, Dewey agrees to pay up. And his plan is to win the Battle of the Band's $20,000 prize money. Dewey shows up to practice with his band, No Vacancy. He's prepared with new material he thinks could win them the competition, only to realize he's been kicked out and already replaced due to his drunken behavior and embarrassing stage stunts.
We voted. You're out. This is Spider. He's replacing you.
What's up, dog?
Dewey's former band doesn't want his erratic behavior to cost them the prize money, and it's a much-needed wake-up call for Dewey. He storms off to start his own band and a revolution.
Read between the lines, Theo. Read between the lines!
I must have stumbled upon School of Rock when I was around 8 years old, around the same time when my friend snuck a DVD copy of Little Miss Sunshine, the R-rated movie, out of her house and into my house. Her parents were pissed when they found out, but my parents, they were like, "Why do you have that?" We have a copy in the living room. It's on the shelf next to the CRTV, to the right of the Nintendo Wii, and just above the looming economic recession. School of Rock was undeniably cool. It starred kids my age who also played instruments like me, but Summer, we have got to talk about your clarinet embouchure. See me after class. And it was overtly anti-establishment and anti-authority, which really spoke to the girl listening to Green Day's holiday single, the one with the Dynamite cover on her camera-less iPod Touch. And damn it if I don't love musicals. School of Rock opens with what's gotta be one of my favorite things that a movie can do. Just like Napoleon Dynamite from 2004, it opens with iconic, practical, in-camera credits. School of Rock calls out the producer, director, and lead actor within a sweeping one take of band posters as we follow people into a divey music venue. During production and after filming the original credit sequence, the was dropped from the movie title. I remember watching the DVD bonus features when I was a kid, and Linklater said there was a production memo to lose the extra syllable. But trailers had already premiered featuring the original title, so they were like, whatever, fuck it, and they just left it in the final cut of the film. We get an establishing shot of presumably downtown Staten Island. Filming for the movie was done in New Jersey and New York City's metro area, which gives us a pretty good idea of the kind of kids that we're going to meet. After Manhattan, Staten Island is the second most expensive borough in New York and also the least populated. The area skews residential, and the average home lists at $679,000, which is almost twice the national average. While Dewey's trying to sell one of his guitars over the phone, he gets a call from the principal of Horace Green Prep looking for Ned to substitute teach. Unfortunately, Ned's not home. Until he is. I can't get over that the school pays its subs $650 a week in the year of our Lord 2003. And because I'm a glutton for punishment, I obviously look up the inflation-adjusted amount for today, and holy fuck, we live in a hellscape. Anyway, the school in the movie is low-key named after this real school, Horace Mann, in the Bronx, and one glance at their website tells you everything you need to know, including the $61,900 annual tuition, which is a far cry from Summer's estimation of her parents spending
$15,000 a year for recess.
Even when accounting for inflation, that's still only $25,000 in today's money. Dewey, posing as Ned, aka Mr. S, gets the lowdown from an uptight Principal Mullins, played by Joan Cusack, in this hilarious exchange.
You know what? You don't have to worry about me because I'm a hard ass. And if a kid gets out of line, I got no problem smacking him in the head.
No, we don't use corporal punishment here.
Okay, so just verbal abuse?
If you watch this movie for one reason and one reason only, let it be the dialogue. Mr. S greets the 5th grade class with a hangover, and the students get a taste of his disdain for authority. This is juxtaposed by the next scene of Principal Mullins in the darkest room I've ever seen, decorated with deeply unsettling artwork, disciplining a child before offering her the most threatening hug imaginable.
Would you like a hug?
Dewey is going through it regarding his musical aspirations. He's been mocked on the street by strangers, rejected by Ned and Patty, kicked out of his band, and is now getting harassed by children.
You wouldn't come to work hungover unless you're an alcoholic. Dude, you got a disease.
But it's all leading up to an iconic monologue of Mr. S angrily lamenting to his students about the man.
But in the end, you're just gonna lose big time because the world is run by the man.
Who?
The man. Oh, you don't know the man? Oh, well, he's everywhere. In the White House, down the hall, Miss Mullins, she's the man. And there used to be a way to stick it to the man. It was called rock and roll.
Later, Mr. S catches a glimpse of the students' musical talents and sees an opportunity. His plan to enter Battle of the Bands is back in motion. Mr. S starts teaching his students about rock and roll, and we begin to see how music brings Mr. S and his students back to life. You know that trope about gay students falling in love with their English teachers or just being obsessed with them in general, so enamored by their knowledge and enriched by their praise? Think Miss Honey from Matilda, or Robin Williams from Dead Poets Society, Bill Anderson from The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and shit, even to a point Whiplash.
Why do you suppose I just hurled a chair at your head, Neiman?
To a point. Okay, I've seen that movie. I love it. It's terrible. Very, very bad things happen. Teachers have easily been the most influential adults in my life, and it's really important for children to have trusted adults in their lives who aren't their parents. Granted, I was a pleasure to have in class, so I'm definitely biased, but I think the same sentiment applies to coaches, babysitters, neighbors, relatives. Especially in my formative years, but even throughout my undergrad, I developed relationships with my teachers that were born from admiration but grew from mutual respect. My 5th grade English teacher signed my yearbook with a note saying that she couldn't wait to see me as a published author and buy my first book. My high school photography teacher wrote a college letter of recommendation that moved me to tears. He detailed vignettes of my life as a young artist that I didn't think anybody noticed, but it made me feel seen and heard. And as a child, that's all you really want. Your days are dictated by school schedules and extracurricular activities, and your entire world is governed by the rules of whatever adult you're being supervised by at the time. Your choices are limited, rules feel arbitrary, you're often disbelieved and silenced, and obedience is praised above all else. So when an adult comes around, someone who to a child inherently represents authority, and they see you as not just a child, but a person, that feeling of mutual respect is everything to a child. At lunchtime, piano player Lawrence confides in Mr. S that he shouldn't be in the band because he's not cool enough. Relatable. But Mr. S stops this negative self-talk in its tracks and teaches Lawrence a wildly complicated handshake. The encouragement is beautiful, but what I also loved about this scene is Mr. S emphasizes commitment to the band and his peers.
Okay, I'll do it.
Now listen, this is a big commitment now. You don't just say yes if you're gonna flake out later.
I won't.
This scene was actually inspired by real-life Lawrence, played by Robert Sy, telling Linklater he wasn't good enough to be in the movie. Mr. S truly sees each student, and this is evident when he's assigning the class roles for the Battle of the Bands project. Mr. S assigns positions tailored to each student's individual strengths and potential, minus the groupies, which is one of my 2 gripes that I have with this movie.
You 3 groupies.
But hey, comedy isn't meant to be timeless. Right, Sarah? This is when Billy asks to be the band's stylist, which Mr. S accommodates, no questions asked. There is no way that anyone could star in this movie besides Jack Black, which makes sense because the part was literally written for him. But this is particularly evident when Mr. S performs his original song for the class, all in a single take.
In the end of time, there was a man who knew the road.
Jack Black is the perfect character actor, balancing his magnetic presence and comedic timing as he belts about his overdue rent and ousting from No Vacancy. I know this scene word for fucking word. It's that good. It's really beautiful watching Mr. S come into his own as a teacher. During band practice, he critiques his students in a way that is still kind and supportive, giving them advice to not just play better, but to also look and feel more confident. This kind of encouragement changes the lives of children and could be the difference between them giving up entirely and believing they can do hard things. There is no doubt that Mr. S believes in the power of music. The scene where he assigns CDs hand-selected for each student's homework reminds me of my 5th grade teacher who gifted each student a book chosen specifically for them. Though funny, Mr. S is still very serious when he tells Freddie they aren't goofing off, but rather creating musical fusion. And he means it. We can see this in the next scene where Mr. S overhears a conversation between his student Zach and Zach's father. Zach is ordered to play his music only after he completes his homework and chores, and only what his classical teacher assigns him. Even after Zach listens to his father and says, okay, his dad still tells him to cut the attitude.
Excuse me?
He's the one with the frickin' attitude, okay? God. It just makes me so mad when parents belittle their children like this and don't treat them with any kind of respect just because they're children. Mr. S sees this interaction and he knows the remedy. Sticking it to the man with a rock song. He asks the kids what makes them mad, a feeling that children are usually punished for, but he creates a productive outlet for them to share their grievances and feel validated in their frustration. The kids cathartically sing Step Off, concluding a scene that addresses how children's home lives affect their behavior in school. That being angry is normal and can be felt in a healthy way through making music. Which brings me to our next chapter. What if I told you that School of Rock is based on a true story? 20 miles outside of Fair, Vancouver, where we lay our scene, the year is 1975. The Watergate scandal reaches guilty verdicts, Microsoft is founded, the Vietnam War ends with the fall of Saigon, Muhammad Ali defeats Joe Frazier in the Thrilla in Manila, and Tobey Maguire is born. Thank God. And then there's Hans Fanger, a young, soon-to-be father who needs a job, and his degree in medieval English poetry and music is shockingly unhelpful. Fanger grew up with no formal musical training, but he learned the ropes in various rock bands. His love for music and brand new teaching certificate landed him in the Langley School District in British Columbia, which was facing a teacher shortage. In the Bible Belt of Canada, Fanger showed up for music class with shoulder-length hair, wearing sunglasses, a velour blazer, and jeans. Uncertain how to teach, he started with what he knew, the songs he himself enjoyed. He was like no other teacher we ever had. He was teaching us songs that our older siblings were listening to, and I said, this is cool. He always had a guitar with him, and he always held his pick like a cigarette. Fanger found that conventional children's music was condescending and ignorant to the realities of childhood. Kids' music is so, I want to teach the world to sing in harmony. Peace in the world, my pets are really nice. Meanwhile, kids didn't feel that. They felt lonely. They felt sad. Many of them came from bad backgrounds. The purpose of music is to express an emotion, but there was no music for 6-year-olds to do that. These children hated cute. They cherished songs that evoked loneliness and sadness. Students across the district learned songs by the Beach Boys, Fleetwood Mac, David Bowie, and the Beatles. They played with mallets, bells, and glockenspiels alongside guitars that had some of the strings removed to accommodate their small hands. Shy children were paired with outgoing ones on the risers so they would be inspired to sing. I was in the back row and was very shy, and he pointed one afternoon and said, I want you to stay after school for a solo. This is from Darla Kendrick, who is now a professional singer. With a few years of teaching under his belt, one day Fanger is recording a jam session with a friend who had bought a new Revox tape recorder. Inspiration strikes. In a spur-of-the-moment decision, Fanger gathers his students onto risers in the school gymnasium. He sets up a microphone and recording equipment, but no AC because it's the 70s, dude. Full of energy, Fanger runs around the gym as he strums his guitar, conducting the students with large gestures and the nod of his chin. Fanger pays for vinyl pressings of this single-take performance for each student to take home and have a keepsake. Like any childhood project, these 1978 vinyls were tucked away in basements or found their way into donation bins. So how did it become one of the biggest and most celebrated reissues more than 20 years later? Like all great music, it started in a thrift shop.
What?
So this guy, let's call him Brian Linz. He's a disc jockey, and one day in the Y2K, he's in the SPCA thrift store in Vancouver looking for records. He discovers one of the Langley records adorned with a collage of school children with tracks like Rhiannon and Space Oddity. He's like, this is wild. I should send this to my disc jockey buddy in New Jersey. So his friend, Erwin Chusid, listens to a few songs and thinks it sounds like it was recorded by, quote, a cult of youngsters gathered in a dungeon late at night, singing the song as part of some ritualistic ceremony. And that's basically a freeform, non-commercial radio station programmer's dream. So he's like, Pog. Erwin hears the entire album and finds it hauntingly beautiful. He thinks it deserves a commercial release. He pitches the album to 10 different labels, all of which reject the project, but eventually it's picked up by Bar None Records and receives incredible praise from the public, critics, and the artists themselves. The Washington Post called the record "The Sound of Falling in Love with Music." There's a great mini doc that I watched for this research that interviews Hans Fanger and students involved in the project, so I'll link that below. From the very beginning of my teaching career, I had always really thought that my job was to have children fall in love with making music. Music and art are those subjects that create citizenship in a school. Gives kids a sense of belonging, gives kids a sense of working with other kids together, and gives your school the kind of feeling that you want to be there. This hits so close to home for me. My junior year of high school, there was a discussion of cutting the art and music classes, and my art teacher responded by designing protest flyers for us to hang around the school. Art of any kind is and was my safe space. From marching band to stage crew to AP photography class, I poured myself into whichever extracurricular was in season. I developed practical skills like time management and work ethic, but the reasons that I came back were much bigger. I created deep friendships, developed loyalty and responsibility to my crewmates, and pursued the feeling that I helped create something new and special. So yeah, in high school, I was a nerd who played apples to apples in my friend's basement and drank soda pop and posted videos on the internet. Not much has changed. The point is that School of Rock captures the beauty of what it means to be part of something like a band, a cast, a crew, and also how cathartic it is to work hard on something and show it to the world, knowing that your creation could make someone feel. What happened in the Langley schools is an incredibly unique story, but its themes are all too familiar for those of us who picked up an instrument, a paintbrush, a camera when we were young and felt a sense of purpose and what that tool could create. It's bigger than just you. One great rock show can change the world. Our story continues with the montage that had every kid in 2003 discovering the Ramones for the first time. Mr. S is lecturing in front of a chalkboard filled with a web of rock music genres. It's an iconic image that still circulates today. He's teaching students one-on-one, coaching them on their rock performances, all the while Bonzo Goes to Bitburg, a protest song about Ronald Reagan, plays on in the background. Very on theme. Interestingly, the 1985 single was only released in the UK despite being by an American band. That's weird. It smells like the man in here. Sources say the record label and parent company held back the release of the single because of both political and financial reasons, saying the song just wasn't up to par. The song was released in the States a year later, but this time under the name My Brain is Hanging Upside Down, parentheses, Bonzo Goes to Bitburg. Well, apparently the name change was an inside job done to appease none other than guitarist Johnny Ramone, who was a staunch conservative and considered Reagan the best president of our lifetime. Ah yes, Ronald Reagan, the man who started the war on drugs to criminalize people of color and the political left, the man who crushed American unions and the middle class, leaving us to, as the Ramones said, pick up the pieces. The man who, as discussed in this very song, was widely criticized for visiting a military cemetery in Bitburg, West Germany, that happened to include 49 members of the Waffen-SS alongside a few thousand German soldiers. And he visited to commemorate the 40th anniversary of the end of World War II in Europe. This visit was totally a strategic plan by the West German Chancellor Helmut Kohl to not only strengthen ties with the United States, but to also curry favor with Nazis and Nazi sympathizers in West Germany. Reagan's planned visit sparked controversy from the jump, and it was only made worse when he categorized German soldiers under Nazi rule as victims just the same as those in concentration camps.
Oh my God!
Yikes. Quote, "These SS troops were the villains, as we know, that conducted the persecutions and all. But there are 2,000 graves there, and most of those, the average age is about 18. I think that there's nothing wrong with visiting that cemetery where those young men are victims of Nazism also, even though they were fighting in the German uniform, drafted into service to carry out the hateful wishes of the Nazis. They were victims, just as surely as the victims in the concentration camps." So thank you to the Ramones for giving me another reason to hate Ronald Reagan, except for Johnny Ramone. Rest in piss, bootlicker.
God bless President Bush and God bless America.
Back at Horace Green, Miss Mullins informs the Teacher's Lounge of the upcoming Parents' Night event. Through some light gossip, Dewey finds out that their uptight principal has loosened up once in the past. It involved getting drunk at an alumni dinner and a Stevie Nicks impersonation. Interesting. Mr. S and the core band members sneak out of the school and pile into his windowless van. Meanwhile, the roadies and crew hang back to keep up the charade. Tamika tells Mr. S that she doesn't want to sing because she's afraid that people will laugh at her for being fat. We see an incredible exchange between the two that is accepting, empowering, and anti-diet culture, which is an absolutely wild concept for a time when the Atkins diet was all the rage. But Dewey isn't done putting out fires. He finds out from Summer that some guys invited Freddie out to their van.
Man, that kid's 10 years old, man. He looks up to you, and you are setting an example for him, so quit messing around and start acting like a responsible adult!
The Battle of the Band's coordinators fill the bill before they can hear the band play, and Mr. S handles it really well.
Look, thanks for coming down, but you're really not what we're looking for.
You listen to me. These kids have worked their little fingers to the bone just to play one song for you, so you just sit down, shut up, and listen!
But Summer won't take no for an answer, and she devises a plan. They try to guilt the coordinators into letting them on the bill by pretending to have a rare blood disease. The plan works, and the gang celebrates with the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin. Though they've loosened up over the years, Led Zeppelin is notoriously selective in allowing their songs to be used in various projects. Linklater himself was unsuccessful in getting the rights to Led Zeppelin for Dazed and Confused in the 90s, so he asked Jack Black to record a video of him begging the band to use their song.
Hey, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, the gods of rock. And the greatest rock band of all time. We need your song, man. We need the Immigrant Song. This is a movie about rock. And without that song, this movie will crumble into smithereens. Oh no, the movies kick ass. But dude, your song would be the hard rockin' cherry on the top of the mountain. Please.
And here's the thing. It may seem corny, but it worked. We got the song.
Mr. S invites Miss Mullins out to coffee, but takes her to a bar. At the jukebox, he puts on Edge of 17. Stevie Nicks. The combination of beer and Stevie sends Miss Mullins into an unusually agreeable trance. Dewey shoots his shot and asks to take his students to an educational concert at the end of the month. Miss Mullins agrees. Later, Miss Mullins confesses that this is the first time a teacher has asked her to do something outside of school. She vents about how she became uptight because of pressure from the parents as the principal of a prep school.
Because when it comes to their kids, these parents, they have no sense of humor.
I'm sure that's not foreshadowing anything. Back in class, Dewey overhears Zach playing an original song and ends up gathering the band to learn it. It's a quick moment, but it's a reminder of how important it is for kids to feel validated in their own ideas and creations. It's parents' night, and Dewey is getting dressed at the apartment while Ned sits on the couch going through mail. He opens a check from Horace Green, which is weird because he's never worked there. Ned picks up the phone to call the school, but Dewey stops him and spills the tea, begging Ned to keep a secret for one more day so he can play Battle of the Bands. Then Patty comes home and something's afoot. In the car on the way to parents' night, Mr. S makes a last-ditch attempt to come clean to Miss Mullins, but it goes right over her head and we are in the trenches. Dewey gives his presentation, but the parents have questions.
Excuse me. Ever since you started teaching here, all my son can talk about is music. He says when he grows up, he wants to be a musician.
That's right.
Is this your influence?
Yeah, Mr. Schneebly, why has my daughter become obsessed with David Geffen?
How is this? Homework?
Mr. S gets cagey and starts babbling about teacher-student confidentiality, but this bunch of yuppies calls BS. An officer shows up in the hallway, students start chiming in, and Dewey acquiesces. But not before shouting out individual students for their talents and achievements. The jig is up.
My name is Dewey Finn. And no, I'm not a licensed teacher, but I have been touched by your kids. And I'm pretty sure I've touched them.
What?
Oh my
God!
And that joke is my second gripe. We're really towing that line. It's only funny because no one got hurt in this story. But the mere existence of these jokes reinforces the importance of children's safety. Fortunately, the School of Rock production has a good reputation and actors are very outspoken about their fond memories on set and with Jack Black. But I can't help but think about stories like Jeanette McCurdy, Britney Spears, Ruby Frankie's children, and the recent Quiet on Set docuseries, where adults use their positions of power to exploit minors physically, mentally, sexually, and financially. And this includes family vlogging channels. Any adult who works with children should have thorough background checks. We need adults to be vigilant and to believe children. Though their set experience was positive, some of the actors really struggled with bullying after the release of the movie. Rivka Reyes, who played the bassist Katie, describes their story as kind of parallel with Britney's. They were harassed at school, sexualized online, panicked that they had peaked in life at 10 years old. Reyes was on a path riddled with drugs, sex, alcohol, and self-harm from the ages of 14 to 24 before getting sober in 2017. Joey Gatos Jr., who played the lead guitarist Zach, was treated like a weirdo when he returned to his small Michigan town. He was physically assaulted by another student because of his role in the movie, and he was recently in the news in 2019 for his arrest after stealing a guitar from a music store. There's also Brian Faldudo, who plays Billy. I found some claims that Mike White disowned the final film because of the gay stereotypes exacerbated by Linklater. The sourcing is murky though, so I don't know if I believe this claim, but director Richard Linklater is quoted saying, "I remember Rudin liking the idea of having one of the kids be effeminate. I was like, that's pretty radical." Even casting Brian and talking to his parents, I was like, I don't know if you guys know yet, but young Brian is gay. They were cool with it. It just seemed very real. So Linklater cast a kid he thought was gay to play the gay kid and then outed him to his parents. Don't do that. Don't out a child to their parents before they've even considered their sexuality. The fuck? Billy's actor Brian has said that he denied his sexuality for many years because of shame and internalized homophobia. Even though I denied them the chance to do so for 16 years, supporters who resonated with my work on screen at such a young age have wasted no time in reaching out and telling me what it meant to see someone like me on the big screen in 2003. In most cases, someone like them. I'll admit, the beautiful moments of connection that have come since embracing and sharing my story have made me feel silly for hiding. But I was 11 and it was a different time and I had to do what I had to do to survive. Back at the apartment, Patty goes off on Dewey for impersonating Ned. Valid. And Ned breaks it up. Dewey apologizes, Ned is empathetic, but tells him that it's time to move out. The next day, in a classroom of unsupervised children, some of the kids lament that they were duped and wasted their time, but after some discussion, they agree that they worked too hard for too long not to play the show. While the parents are yelling at Miss Mullins in her office, the kids are convincing a bus driver to help them pick up Mr. S at his apartment on their way to the show. Dewey is woken up by Freddie and Lawrence telling him that it's time to go. Dewey brushes them off, admitting that he's a loser with nothing to his name, but these kids are not having it.
Come on, man. Quit goofing around. This is serious business. We're on a mission. One great rock show can change the world.
Then Dewey does something that adults rarely do. Apologizes to children.
I want to say I'm sorry that I used you guys. I'm sorry I lied. And it's not cool to lie to your band.
Come on, we're gonna be late. There's no time for apologies. Let's go, come on!
All right, let's go!
So often, adults believe that their authority status exempts them from making mistakes and needing to make amends for fear of losing respect. These kids deserve an apology from Dewey, and I'm really glad they got one. Even Ned shows growth when he tells Patty he's going to the show and she gives him the typical nagging girlfriend routine, calling him a pushover, to which he abruptly leaves. At the Battle of the Bands, Dewey insists that they play Zach's original song despite the fact that they haven't practiced it as much. We also get a glimpse of Dewey's former band, No Vacancy. The parents arrive at the show and Dewey introduces the original song by Zach Mooneyham.
We're the School of Rock, and this song was written by our own Zach Mooneyham.
And this performance gives me chills, dude. Does it sound like The Who mixed with AC/DC? Yes. Does it rock? Yeah. Yeah, it does. Tamika has a stunning solo, as does Zach's slash-looking self. And then, redemption. Dewey does a stage dive, which, unlike the one we see in the opening credits, is flawless. And the winner of Battle of the Bands and the $20,000 prize is No Vacancy. This outcome was actually different in the original draft of the script, but Freddie's actor, Kevin, suggested that the school should lose the competition. No Vacancy winning is a massive upset for everyone in the venue. Well, everyone except this guy. The crowd starts chanting School of Rock, an encore. Sometime in the near future, Summer is dropped off at the School of Rock after-school program. Even Ned is involved, teaching intro to guitar to some kids. And we're blessed with a lovely little credit scene, and Freddie is wearing a Green Day Warning shirt, which makes me happy because that's one of my favorite albums. School of Rock has experienced brief resurgences in relevancy over the years. The cast gathered for a 10-year reunion in 2013, and they're planning another one this year to celebrate 20 years. Tragically, Kevin Clark, who played Freddie Jones, was hit by a car while biking home in 2021 and passed away. The cast plans to honor him at the reunion. I don't know if we'll be able to play with someone else playing drums, because it wouldn't feel right. My God, what a heartbreaker that was. We need to celebrate our time together and our time on this planet as long as we're here. It was heartbreaking. Kevin was my brother. He was my best friend on set from day one. We bonded over being Jewish and Chicagoan and liking Green Day. In his last few years, he had been teaching at a School of Rock in a suburb outside of Chicago, and he just loved his kids so much. The band that he was coaching, Ordinary Hero, they played at his wake. According to their website, School of Rock is the world's largest multi-location music school with tens of thousands of musicians going through classes, workshops, camps, and performance programs every day. Founded as a single school in Philadelphia in 1998, School of Rock now has over 300 locations in 15 different countries. There was a musical for School of Rock which debuted in 2015 with music by Andrew Lloyd Webber, the same guy who did Phantom of the Opera, Cats, and Jesus Christ Superstar. I actually saw this show when it was on tour, and it was incredible because all of the kids play their instruments live on stage. I love this movie. I've seen it dozens of times, and it is unironically one of my favorite movies. Easily top 10, right up there with Napoleon Dynamite. And yes, I did go to film school. Movie bros, sound off in the comments. I think this movie stands the test of time for a lot of reasons, but mostly because it's rooted in realism. These children are first and foremost trained musicians. The filmmakers prioritized hiring musically talented kids first and actors second, and it really shows on screen. Cast members have said they didn't even feel like they were acting because so much of their character was just being themselves. Linklater initially passed on the movie, but later agreed to direct it because he was given creative control to ground the story. Also, this cast of students is incredibly diverse, not just racially, but also diverse in personalities and interests. You've got the type A overachievers like Summer, who are the natural-born leaders. You've got tech wizards like Gordon, who can be seen on his laptop in the background of several scenes. A lot of the film's characters were developed based on the actors who played them, like Brian Faldudo. It's so clear to me that this movie was given so much attention and care throughout the entire production. The script, cast, music, and acting choices were carefully curated to keep the story within the realm of believability. Linklater wanted to make sure School of Rock was a legit rock and roll movie, so music supervisor Randall Poster brought in Sonic Youth's Jim O'Rourke as a consultant. While I was researching this video, I kept coming back to this Rolling Stone article that is full of direct quotes from the cast and crew. Z Infante, who plays Gordon, said, quote, I didn't know I was queer at the time, but there's something queer about School of Rock. Infante, who uses they, he, she pronouns, said, "There's something about challenging the status quo, about sticking it to the man, that creates this incredible environment for people of all backgrounds, sexual orientation, gender identities, races, religions. Whoever you are, you're welcome at the School of Rock." This is what Hans Fanger was doing all those years ago at the Langley schools. Through his unorthodox approach, Fanger cultivated a special place for every child in those schools to be free, to be seen, and to be together. He did this through music, yes, but also through coloring outside the lines and embracing a counterculture. You have to remember, Fanger was a self-identified hippie who subverted cultural norms in the way he dressed, but also in the way that he taught and interacted with children. Fanger's former students say that he was a kid at heart, which is something that they responded to. Hans was definitely an inspiration in my life at that time, and it meant a lot to me. He was his own person and his own authentic self. One student recalls, "When he told me I was singing that solo, I thought, how could he pick me? I'm not good enough." But he gave that confidence to say, "Yeah, I'm going to do it because I have that ability." So you go into the world and think a little differently about yourself. School of Rock is about finding your voice. When we question the powers that be, when we find solidarity within our communities, when we allow ourselves to feel and to be, we are that much closer to freedom. Oh my god. I love this movie. I've been posting videos on the internet since I was a small child, definitely too young to be posting videos on the internet. I grew up on YouTube and I've always loved video essays, and I've always been an avid viewer of video essays, and I figured I should give it a freaking shot myself. So hey, I'm Hannah, you can call me HP. I make video essays about political, social, cultural commentary and anything that I think is interesting. I also stream on Twitch if you want to hang out over there. I'm going to be making more videos. Stay tuned, like and subscribe. I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.